Hello, BookTube. Well, I'm back. I took 10 days off, and I badly needed them, and I have returned. And I tried to make a video, and just stared at the camera without having any idea what I was doing. And so I stopped, and then I tried to make a video later than that, and I started talking with Frida for 40 minutes and realized I was ignoring the camera, so I turned it off. Then I tried to make a video again, and got distracted by a book on the shelf, pulled it down, and just started reading with the camera rolling. I was only 40 minutes later that I realized I had to reach out and turn the camera. But I believe I have coagulated enough. I believe that I am now collected enough to make videos. And I have some mail here. The large amount of mail that came a long time ago, last year, I opened without really remembering that BookTube existed, without really remembering that I shouldn't, and often as not, I was lost in contemplation of the cardboard packaging and ignored the book. But recently I've got a fair amount of books I thought we'd go through together that I will do in the right way, that I will do in the concentrated, collected way. So we'll start and see what we have here. I'm improvising a little here because I broke my tripod. my little $4 tripod snapped. The rubber legs are just fine, but the bracket that holds anything onto the tripod snapped just in two. So I need to get another one of those. So I had to set up everything in place. So what have we got here? What is our first book of 2021? It is from the New York Review of Books. And it is Live, 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 or Live, Live, Live by Jonathan Buckley. Why isn't Jonathan Buckley better known? John Banville has asked. Since 1997, Buckley has produced 10 distinctly inventive and varied works of fiction and was awarded the BBC National Short Story Award in 2015. However, his work has remained unjustly underappreciated in the U.S. until the NYRB's publication in 2020 of The Great Concert of the Night. Did that do it? Did The Great Concert of the Night do it? Did that get him noticed in America? Anyway, as a lonely boy of 12 or 13, Josh meets Lucas, a man who claims to communicate with the dead. This is a novel? This is a novel. This is a novelist, we've been told. Okay. All right. So is Josh 12 or 13? You made him up. You didn't live in the 17th century and you're having trouble tracking down the baptismal records. You made him up. Is he 12 or 13? Well, I guess we don't know. The author doesn't know. Lucas has taken Josh's elderly neighbors, the Olivers, as clients. Kathleen hopes he can help her husband, Caleb, process his grief at his sister's death. But following Caleb's sudden drowning, Lucas becomes a permanent fixture in the home. He and Joshua strike up an enduring friendship, and after Lucas begins another ambiguous partnership, this time with a much younger woman, questions are raised. Okay. This is a beautifully observed and crafted work by a novelist at the height of his powers. All right, well, great. Okay, I admit that I am part of this horrific neglect. I don't know this author. So this paperback comes out on February 2nd, a rather attractive thing. I think you have to agree, whether you know the author or not. That is a well-designed thing. So we start off with a novel. We start off with a made-up story. And one that's going to break fresh ground for me. Let's see what the next one is. Oh, you're kidding me. This is more fiction. Okay, this is more fiction. This is Permafrost by Eva Baltazar, translated by Julia Sanchez. Comes out in April. Permafrost. The no BS lesbian narrator is an uninhibited lover and a wickedly funny observer of modern life. Desperate to get out of Barcelona, she goes to Brussels because a city whose symbol is a little boy pissing was a city I knew I would like. As an au pair in Scotland, she develops a hatred for the color green. And everywhere she goes, she tries to break out of the roles set for her by family and society, chasing escape wherever it can be found. Love affairs, travel, thoughts of suicide. Full of powerful physical imagery, this prize-winning debut novel was acclaimed by acclaimed Catalan poet Eva Balthazar, was a word-of-the-mouth hit in its own language. Is this actually written in Catalan? That would be something. I don't think I've read a book translated from the Catalan in quite some time. Yes, it was. Wow. Okay. And the author has published 10 volumes of poetry to widespread acclaim. Her debut novel received the 2018 Premi Littéraire from Catalan booksellers and was shortlisted for France's Prix Medici. It is the first novel in a triptych which aims to explore the universes of 3 different women in the first person. The author lives a simple life with her wife and 2 daughters in a village near the mountains. Okay. All right, well, this comes out in early April. It's another novel. Another novel, and perhaps also autofiction. Are these all going to be novels? Pretty much. Well, we have some boxes. There's some boxes at the end. I don't imagine I'm going to get a novel big enough to fit in a box. Oh no! All right, we're back to nonfiction here. This is by Guido Tonelli, and it is called Genesis: The Story of How Everything Began. The renowned particle physicist Guido Tonelli. Why do I know that name? Did he write a book that did really well? He did. He wrote a book that did really well. I can almost remember it. It had physics in the title, I think. Well, anyway, let's find out. Was a central member of a group that confirmed the existence of the Higgs boson. A visiting scientist at CERN and a professor of physics at the University of Pisa, Tonelli is also the author of a number of books and a lifelong lover of the humanities. FSG is very excited to announce the U.S. publication of Tonelli's first book to make it across the Atlantic. Oh, I guess I don't know him. I thought I did. I'm thinking somebody else then. A brief humanistic tour of the evolution of our universe. It was a bestseller when it was first published in Italy in 2019 and will be published in the United States as a hardcover in mid-April. Translated from the Italian by Erica Segre and Simon Carnell. Okay, so another work in translation and another bestseller in its original language. Plotting out a story that takes us from the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago through the rapid expansion of space, the coherence of stable matter, the arrival of the first stars and galaxies, and ultimately, the evolution of living organisms on our own planet. Guido Tonelli's book follows the narrative organization of the Book of Genesis. Very good. Divided into 7 days of creation, or phases in the evolution of the universe. Tonelli's book is based on the most current science, but filled with awe, accessibly written, and echoes the many origin stories that have been told over the centuries and across cultures. Huh. Okay. I wonder how it echoes them. We'll have to see. That's mid-April. Okay, great. Let's move on here. What is this next one? It's going to be more fiction? It is. It is a novel. Good Lord, more translated. This is more translated literature. What is this? What do we have here so far? This is 4 books that we've done so far, and 3 of them are translated. Great, that's fantastic. Okay, this is called Aquarium, and it is by Yara Shahori, and it's translated from the Hebrew by Todd Hassack Lowry. Aquarium. The first book to be published in English from rising Israeli literary star Yara Shahori. Written with a dreamy intensity, the book tells the story of Lily and Dory, raised deaf and mute by their reclusive mother and zealous father, who dedicates his life to building a community for the disabled in rural Israel, hidden away from the hearing world. As children, the two share everything: a secret hideaway at the top of the old rotting tree in their front yard, a collection of their uncle's handcrafted trinkets, and an obsession with the written word. Okay, but why does it say they were raised deaf and mute? Are they deaf and mute? Maybe I'm concentrating on nothing here. Both sisters shared universes, ripped apart, however, when social services takes Dory away and place her in a reformatory. Over the ensuing years, with each of them now stuck between the world of the hearing and the world of the deaf, Lily and Dory must create new identities for themselves that fundamentally alter what they have always assumed about themselves and their families. Huh. Okay. And the author is very young. Good Lord. no date of birth, but she's received a large number of awards. Okay, great. So fantastic. This also comes out in April. These are all April releases. They're all translated work. Fantastic. Maybe that's going to shape into a theme for 2021. These works in translation. That would be interesting. Let's see what this next one is. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. No? Okay, this does not appear to be translated. This is Everyday Mojo Songs of Earth. New and selected poems by Yusuf Komunyaka. Everyday Mojo Songs of Earth. Got a starred review from Publishers Weekly. And its release marks the latest coronation in the career of the author, one of the most revered and influential poets of the last half-century. The title of the new book perfectly distills the unique rhythms and sweep of his work over the last 20 years. A lyric voice at ease, weaving humility and epic expansiveness, elevated myth and swampy muck within the same lines. 12 new poems join pieces from his past 5 collections, and all of which have illuminated unique tools in the author's repertoire, from the rigorous formal restraint of talking dirty to the gods, to the terrifying power of war horses, to the melded and ancient contemporary visions of the Emperor of Water Clocks. Okay, is this also April? No, this is late March. It's poetry. It's a slim volume of poetry, and we don't always do well by those, but we'll give it a try. One thing that I know for sure is the pub sheet is overselling. This will not have any humility in it at all. Not the slightest bit. Not the smallest subatomic particle. But nevertheless, do any of you know this author? Do any of you know this poet? Can you give me an idea of what I'm going to encounter? We'll encounter together. Read some poetry together in 2021. All right, let's see what this next one is. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. Okay, I don't need that. Is this also translated? No, it isn't. But boy, what an internationalist flavor this all has. I think we saw this already. This comes out in February. No, this comes out in late January. This is the Copenhagen Trilogy. Childhood, Youth, and Dependency. By an author who is widely regarded as one of Denmark's most important modern authors, who was born into a working-class family in Copenhagen. She was discouraged from pursuing her education, though she possessed a unique intelligence and a single-minded determination to become a poet from an early age. And this is her acknowledged masterpiece and a forerunner of the autofiction genre. And tells the story of how she left her childhood tenement and won improbable yet swift literary fame as a young writer, only to find herself in the clutches of addiction, a disease that would threaten the independence she worked so hard to achieve as a woman and an artist. I already have a copy of this here. So this is a double. So I should bite the bullet and say that if one of you wants this, if one of you wants the double, let me know. Either email me or sing out in the comments field, because I have a double of this, and one of the things that I want to do in 2021 is get back to mailing things. The United States is in the grip of just unprecedented, unbelievable virus numbers, just unbelievable. And of course, a vaccine is in the offing. A lot of people aren't really grasping the timetable involved with the vaccine. If you live in America, if you live in the United States of America, you're not going to get vaccinated in 2021 unless you're, a healthcare worker or at-risk individual. You're almost certainly not going to get vaccinated until Thanksgiving, something like that. So it's not. It looms on the horizon, but what it's mainly going to do in 2021, especially with the warmer months, is cause people to be careless, which is going to cause the numbers to become stratospheric. I wouldn't be surprised at all if 2021 in the United States sees 7,000 deaths a day because of that, specifically for that reason, because people get careless, because they think the end is in sight. They think a lot of Americans, when polled at the end of 2020, believed there already was a vaccine available, that they could go to their local pharmacy and just get vaccinated. I have no idea. The reporting here has been very muddled, but one way or another, that is, if you live in the United States, that is the very least of the bad news that is coming your way in 2021. But one of the things I would like to do, plague or no plague, pandemic or no pandemic, the numbers were no picnic in Massachusetts in the last 4 months anyway, and the post offices were open the whole time, and the same workers were working. They didn't get sick, and the mail went on. So I'd like to get, I miss sending you things. I miss mailing things out to people. So the Copenhagen Trilogy, obviously you know already, if you watch this channel, that it's autofiction. It's autobiography that calls itself fiction, that is lying and calling itself fiction. There's nothing in here that didn't really happen exactly the way it's depicted in this book. So it isn't fiction. The author calls it, if the author were to call it a tall and regal ostrich, I wouldn't think that this was a big bird. If the author calls it fiction just because there's a current trend, I'm still not going to, the author doesn't dictate to me what the thing obviously is. I'm going to read it, and I have another copy. I'm going to read it. I may very well like it. I remember somebody on BookTube praising this. I don't remember who it was, but somebody, I think at the end of 2020, was praising this work. That's enough for me. That's enough for me to clear my mind of carping predispositions and give it a fair shot. If one of you loves it, I might love it. Provided you're not Brian at Bookish. So, but I don't need 2 copies. So if you know this author, if you know this work, if it's on your wish list or something like that, not a whim, right? Let's go back to the old informal rules of 2017 to 2018. If you see something in a mail hall that's not a whim, something that you genuinely want, then we should get back in the habit of you letting me know that, so that I can, try to send it to you, try to safely send it. Let's see what this next one is. Oh, fantastic. Okay, this is a finished copy of something I've already read. But oh my, there are certain people out there that are just going to love this book. This is by Charlie Gilmore, and it's called Featherhood. I don't know what pub sheet. Let me read you this, because I think this comes out in February, and oh my, I will gladly read this again. One spring day, a baby magpie falls out of its nest and into Charlie Gilmore's hands. Magpies, he soon discovers, are as clever and mischievous as monkeys. I never understand the phrasing there. They are as clever and mischievous as humans. They aren't less clever or less mischievous than humans. So I don't know why you're comparing them to some other animal. But anyway, they are also notorious thieves, and this one quickly steals his heart. By the time the creature develops shiny black feathers that inspire the name Benzine, Charlie and the bird have forged an unbreakable bond. While caring for Benzine, Charlie learns his biological father, an eccentric British poet named Heathcote Williams, has vanished when Charlie was 6 months old, is ill. As he grapples with Heathcote's abandonment, Charlie comes across one of his poems, in which Heathcote describes how an impish young jackdaw fell from its nest and captured his affection. Over time, Benzine helps Charlie unravel his fears about repeating the past and embrace the role of father himself. A bird falls, a father dies, a child is born. Featherhood is the unforgettable story of a love affair between a man and a bird. It is also a beautiful and affecting memoir about childhood and parenthood, captivity and freedom, grief and love. And as pat and hallmarky as all that sounds, it's really good. So I strongly recommend this. I'll gladly read it again. I'll try and review it somewhere, but we shall see. But if that sounded appealing to you and your question is, well, now I just need to know, is it well done? It is. So get your library to order it or get on the list for it or whatever. Let's move on. We're not done yet. We still have boxes to do. But first we'll do this last envelope. It's a heavy thing. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, this is a finished copy of something that we've already seen. This is The Revolution According to Raimondo Matta by Gina Apostol. So this is yet more translated fiction. Or no, do I remember correctly that this isn't translated. It's still internationalist. It's still exotic, but I don't think this is translated. No. Okay, this is, we saw this already. It sounded really good. A lot of you got in touch with me and said you liked the sound of it. This comes out in the middle of the month, just a week from now. It's all about the Filipino Revolution. In the author's writing, the candle is almost always a conversation about history. She's obsessed with history, both taking delight in the minutiae of its stories and cynically skewering its practices to great comedic effect. She is a postmodern writer, but somehow manages to straddle both the older, more playful sense of the word, comparisons to Calvino, Borges, Vonnegut, Nabokov, all appropriately turn up in reviews, and the intersectional definition we more commonly use today. All of this is delivered via a deprecating sense of humor, self or otherwise. This was originally published in the Philippines in 2009, where it went on to win the National Book Award and the Golden Book Award, and it has never been published outside the Philippines until now. The author took the opportunity of Soho Press's American publication to expand and revise the original text, an act in perfect keeping with the book itself, which takes the form of a recently discovered and seemingly impossible text left by the fictional revolutionary Raimundo Mata. This fictional memoir traces Mata's childhood, his education in Manila, his love affairs, and his discovery of real-life writer and revolutionary Jose Rizal. I have not read this yet. I have the advanced copy, and I really should get to it. I read a part of it, and then I faded out. But it wasn't the fault of the book. I really should get to this for January, because it seems playful in a kind of controlled and smart way that most literature today is no longer playful. A kind of early John Barth humor that I would like to see if it's true. We shall see. Then we're on to the box. There are 3 boxes here, and then we'll be done with this first rather epic mail haul. I'm now realizing this is rather epic. Let's see here. All right, so this first is a finished copy. It's from January 19th. This is by Tyler Stovall, and it's called White Freedom, History of an Idea. The era of the Enlightenment, which gave rise to our modern conceptions of freedom and democracy, was also the height of the transatlantic slave trade. Yes. Yes, indeed. Those 2 things happened at the same time. For 2 of the years in which the Enlightenment typically is dated as taking place, the Perseid meteor shower was also extremely strong. You could see it anywhere in the Northern Hemisphere. So that's 3 things. The Enlightenment, the Atlantic slave trade, and the Perseid meteor showers. Also, I believe the great storm of Jupiter, the great red spot of Jupiter, was at its biggest size at roughly about this time. America, a nation founded on the principle of liberty, is also a nation built on African slavery, Native American genocide, and systemic racial discrimination. This book traces the complex relationship between freedom and race from the 18th century to today, revealing how being free has meant being white. In his new book, the author explores the intertwined histories of racism and freedom in France and the United States, the 2 leading nations that have claimed liberty as the heart of their national identities. The pursuit of liberty. It's an ideal. Neither France nor America said at their founding, boom, everybody's free. Anyway, let's let the author speak for himself here. He explores how French and American thinkers defined freedom in racial terms and conceived of liberty as an aspect and privilege of whiteness. Show it to me. Claim that's true in the founding of America. Show it to me. The Library of America, very conveniently, for your convenience, assembles a gigantic amount of documents from the people at the time who you're saying equated freedom with whiteness. Show it to me in those documents. Show it to me anywhere written by someone who wasn't a slave owner. And he discusses how the Statue of Liberty, a gift from France to the United States and perhaps the most famous symbol of freedom on earth, promised both freedom and whiteness to European immigrants. Taking readers from the age of the Revolution to today, Stovall challenges the notion that racism is somehow a paradox or contradiction within the democratic tradition, demonstrating how white identity is intrinsic to Western ideas about liberty. Throughout the history of modern Western liberal democracy, freedom has long been white freedom. Okay. The author is a professor of history and a dean of the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences at Fordham University. And this book comes out in a couple of weeks. It's a finished copy. I never got the advanced copy, so I'm going to need to dig into this right away. Obviously, the author and I are going to disagree on quite a bit. On quite a bit. We'll have to see. This is just a pub sheet, keep in mind. This is not the book. We'll have to see how many of the author's claims are polemical and how many of them are grounded on fact. A lot of the claims in this pub sheet are not grounded in fact and are pretty insulting. Pretty insulting. Because there's no end limit. There's no expiration date in the pub sheet to the concepts involved. You'll notice. It's not like the author's saying these things were true at the beginning of the Enlightenment, or were true at the beginning of the American Revolution, or the beginning of the American Republic, or the beginning of the French Republic. From the pub sheet, it sounds like the author is saying these things are baked in, that they're endemic. To which I would say to the author, if you're going to call me personally a racist, then I'm going to take offense at that. You don't have any idea what you're talking about. You don't know me. And if I have to admit to sheet-wearing, cross-burning racism, active participatory racism, in order to read this book, well, then I'll find out. I'll know pretty soon. I'll know after the first chapter or two whether or not that is the price of my admission. And if it is, I'll drop the thing. I don't like doing that. Obviously, a lot of work went into this. I'm not going to like dropping it, but I'm not going to bother with it if that's the price of admission. I have never owned a slave, and no black person in America has ever been a slave. And those are just incontrovertible facts. So there's no such thing as race crime. Okay? There's no such thing as generational debt. There's no such thing as original sin. I am not responsible for the acts of white people 400 years ago. And black people in America today are not hurt by the acts of white people 400 years ago today. And I know the hearts and minds and every single word of the writing of a huge number of the people who helped to found this country, and they did not equate freedom with skin color. Most of them were traumatized, absolutely agonized over the idea that there were racist slave states in the American South. Most of them hated that idea. And most of them were very convinced that it was doomed, and that they would watch to keep it doomed. They would watch to make sure that it stayed doomed. What are you saying to the generations of effort, of life and property risking effort? A lot of those people were run out of town. Quite a few of them were killed. What are you saying to their effort? If you're saying, I should stress, I don't know what the author's saying. I've only read the pub sheet. The author will have his book to talk to me about white freedom. So we shall see. It's if the trick here is the current year social justice warrior trick of, if you're going to deny my claim that you are a racist, then you are defending the racial history of your country. Too sweet, just the whole of it. If that is the trick here, well, I'll have no more patience with it with a professor from Fordham University than I would from any of those kids who've tried that trick on me. That doesn't work. Those two things don't go together. The trick shouldn't work on anybody. I can acknowledge the racial injustices of this country, the genocide of this country. Anyway, we shall see. We shall see what it's like. We'll just move on here for now. I will move that book right up to the top of the list here, so that if the author and I really are going to argue with each other, we can get it over with right away. But that was just the pub sheet. The author almost certainly will make a far more nuanced case. I'm hoping. The author will make a far more nuanced case than that everybody's racist. that everybody's racist is not a nuanced case at all, and it's also obviously not true. And I'm getting I must admit, a little sick of it. I'm getting a little sick of that refrain in American cultural commentary that says, if you're white, you're a racist. And if you're white, then you directly benefit from... I'm getting a little sick of that, and it's not justified in any way. It's fraudulent. A lot of it seems to me to be very opportunistic and not very well thought out. we'll see. I find it hard to believe that the author with credentials like that would fall into that sort of thing. So probably his book will be far more interesting, and I will report back since I put you through this rant. Oh boy, oh boy. Okay, here's another late January release. We've already seen this, and I have read this. I will very, very happily read this again because it needs it. It really does. This is a serious work. This is The World Turned Upside Down: A New History of the Cultural Revolution in China, written by an independent historical scholar working in mainland China, where this book has been banned. And the original Chinese version of this is a huge book. The original Chinese version is half again as long. The original. This is an edited version of the original Chinese version, from what I gather. And the only reason that doesn't outrage me is because I gather that the translators, Stacy Mosher and Go Jin, worked on the abridgment with the author. So there I don't mind so much. But this is, the author has marshaled a prodigious amount of research to tell the full story of China's Cultural Revolution, a tumultuous 11-year period beginning in 1966, during which Mao Zedong encouraged a continual revolution of the people against what he perceived as the bourgeois-leaning enemies of the Communist Party. And it goes into mind-boggling detail, just incredible amounts of detail about not just Mao worship and the rather horrifying thought that Mao early on, just in 67 to 68, wanted to bring the whole thing to an end and then realized, no, I can't do that. Instead, I have to broaden it. Instead of bringing it to an end, I have to make it eternal. And also, as you're reading the book, you get a sense that one of those creepy senses that comes out, for instance, in books about the Irish potato famine, of knowing for sure that we will never know how many people died as a result of this thing, this ideological purge. We'll never really know what the death toll is, but it's enormous. Absolutely, hundreds of thousands of people. We'll never know for sure. And it took me a while to get used to the author's style, which I'm assuming is accurately reflected by the translators. It took me a while to get used to his style, even though I had read his previously translated English language book, which was... This author is not flashy. He's exhaustive, and that takes a bit of getting used to. It's generally speaking not a popular historical style for writing in America anymore. So it took me a while to sort of shift gears, but boy, oh boy, what a story. What an immense, amazing story. And lots of new angles. I've read a couple of books on the Cultural Revolution, but there are figures here, people, actors, who this author gives far greater prominence to and backs it up. So that it really did feel like a very new version of this famous story. So I'm glad to have a finished copy because I want to read it again, definitely. Then we have the last box, and then we're done. Another long video to start the year. This is from Amazon. I haven't ordered any books from Amazon. One of you perhaps order a book from Amazon? Oh my. Oh. All right. Okay, I want to stress. I want to stress here. Don't get me a book. Getting me a book is very dangerous. Unless you consult with me ahead of time, getting me a book is very dangerous. I will either not have it or I will not want it. I want to stress that ahead of time. That advice is still really good, but oh my God, one of you hit a bullseye. Oh, this is the Ardent Complete Shakespeare. Oh, look at the size of this thing. Where is my Royal Shakespeare Company Complete Shakespeare? It's in this room. Now I have another one. No, another Complete Shakespeare. I wonder if that's why one of you did this, because you saw my reaction to the Royal Shakespeare Company. Maybe you like this better. Oh my. Oh, new introductions, new notes, new prefaces. Everything is new in here that I get to read. Oh, fantastic. Oh, okay. All right, this is, wow, what a gift. This is the complete Shakespeare in the Ardent trade paperback. Fantastic. Oh, man. Well, right. I got the Royal Shakespeare Company Complete Shakespeare last year, and I thought I would dip into it, and it scarcely left my hand even in the shower. And I'm wondering if that's going to happen here. Well, the same thing is going to be true here. Oh, my. Oh, my. Okay. All right. Wow, one thing I'm noticing right away is there are no footnotes. Wow. No footnotes and no interlineal notes. No notes at all. Just the plays sitting there on the page. Wonder how that's going to feel. I can't remember the last time I read Shakespeare like that. Not that I consult the notes, but they're always right there. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, whoever you are, thank you very much. Thank you very much. But don't send me a book. So there we go. That is our mail for today. We have the Art and Complete Shakespeare. Amazing. Then we have The World Turned Upside Down in a finished copy. We have White Freedom by Tyler Stovall, who his thesis here is that freedom for the West post-Enlightenment has always meant only one skin color. It hasn't been a general concept. It's been also a racial practice. Then we have The Revolution According to Raimondo Mata in a finished trade paperback. We have Featherhood by Charlie Gilmore. He adopts a magpie, and it gets him through a hard time in his life. We have the Copenhagen Trilogy, the advanced copy, a second copy, a double. Then we have Everyday Mojo Songs of Earth. New and selected poetry by a poet that I'm hoping one of you will know. We have Aquarium by a rising star in the Hebrew literature circle. We have Genesis, a translation of a new work about the beginnings of the universe. Permafrost by Eva Baltazar, another translated work. And Live, 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 or Live, Live, Live by Jonathan Buckley. I have no idea which one that is. There you go. That is our first mail haul of the year. Quite a lot of interesting stuff there. And a collected Shakespeare that is going to overcast all of it. I should be diving into all of it. Instead, I'm going to be paying attention to Shakespeare. So anyway, sorry about the length of this. That was a lot of mail to get through. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.